All right, welcome back for another deep dive. This time, we're doing something a little different.
Oh,
We're diving into user reviews
okay.
for the James Bond film Skyfall.
Interesting.
You might be thinking, why deep dive into opinions? But
Yeah.
sometimes understanding what the audience took away from a film can be just as revealing as the film itself.
That's a really good point because Skyfall was such a huge hit,
It was.
both with critics and at the box office.
Oh, yeah.
But what we're going to find out is that even with all that success, viewers had some pretty strong opinions about it.
They did, and that's what makes this deep dive so interesting.
Yeah.
Our source material is a collection of user reviews from IMDb,
Okay.
and we've got the whole spectrum here, glowing praise, thoughtful critiques, and everything in between.
And I think it's important to remember that Skyfall occupies such a unique spot in the Bond franchise.
It does.
This was Daniel Craig's third outing as 007,
Right.
and it followed Quantum of Solace, which was very much tied to the previous story. Skyfall, on the other hand, felt like a fresh start.
It did.
Chance to reestablish Bond for a new generation while also paying homage to the franchise's history.
Yeah. It's like the filmmakers were trying to balance those two impulses, honoring Bond's legacy, but also taking the character in some new directions.
Exactly.
And one of the things that really struck me as I was reading through these reviews was how many people praised Skyfall for capturing that classic Bond feel.
Oh, yeah. There was a real sense that Skyfall was a return to form, like a callback to the golden age of Bond.
Yeah. For example, user Cosmotiger specifically mentioned getting chills because it felt so much like those older films.
Wow.
What do you think contributed to that sense of nostalgia?
Well, a few things come to mind.
Okay.
Skyfall brought back some familiar faces.
Yeah.
Q, the Gadget Master, and Moneypenny, M's loyal assistant.
Right.
They hadn't been in the previous Craig films.
Yeah.
So their return felt like a nod to that classic Bond formula.
Yeah, like a way of saying, hey, we hear you, Bond fans. We're bringing back some of what you love. But it wasn't just about nostalgia, right? There are also some pretty significant changes in this film, particularly in terms of Daniel Craig's performance as Bond.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Skyfall showed us a more mature side to Bond.
Yeah.
Someone who was grappling with the weight of his past
Yeah.
and the toll that his lifestyle had taken on him.
He wasn't just the suave, invincible secret agent anymore.
Right.
This Bond was carrying some scars, both physical and emotional.
Right. And that's definitely a departure from the traditional image of Bond.
Yeah.
In fact, Cheese Socks 3514 even mentioned that Craig embodied a darker, more brooding side of Bond in this film.
Interesting.
To really understand the significance of that, we need to consider Craig's Bond journey up to this point.
Okay.
I mean, in Casino Royale, he was that brash, newly minted 007,
Yeah.
still rough around the edges.
Right.
Then in Quantum of Solace, he was driven by vengeance, a bit reckless and consumed by his personal mission.
Yeah.
But in Skyfall, there's this sense of world weariness,
Mhm.
almost like a recognition that he's not invincible.
Like he's more human now.
Exactly. More human, more relatable, and I think that resonated with a lot of viewers.
It makes his struggles feel more real.
More real, more meaningful.
Yeah.
And speaking of memorable characters, we have to talk about Javier Bardem's performance as Silva,
Oh,
the
yeah.
film's antagonist.
He was absolutely chillin'.
Oh, without a doubt.
Even people who didn't love the movie said that Bardem was amazing in the role.
Bardem's performance was just masterful.
It was.
And Silva's a really interesting Bond villain.
Yeah, what makes him stand out, in your opinion?
Well, unlike a lot of Bond villains who are driven by, world domination or greed,
Right.
Silva has a very personal vendetta against M, the head of MI6.
Right.
That personal connection raises the stakes.
Yeah.
It makes his actions feel so much more menacing.
And one user, Fella Shibby, specifically mentioned loving that atmospheric climax and Silva's incredibly unique lair.
Oh, yeah. That lair was really unlike anything we've seen in a Bond film before.
Yeah, it wasn't just some high-tech fortress or a secret island base. It was almost like a decaying mansion full of shadows and secrets.
Right. And that setting just reflects Silva's character perfectly.
Yeah.
He's like a ghost from M's past, a reminder of all those dark secrets and compromises that come with that life of espionage.
It adds a whole other layer to their conflict.
Exactly. It's not just a battle of wits or physical strength. It's this psychological duel between two characters who are deeply connected by their shared history.
Wow, that's a really insightful way of looking at it.
And that attention to detail, that layering of meaning, is one of the things that makes Skyfall so visually compelling.
Let's move on to the action and visuals.
Yes.
Because reviewers were absolutely gushing over those aspects of the film.
Absolutely.
The action sequences in Skyfall are incredible.
They are incredible.
The motorcycle chase through Istanbul, the fight on top of the train in India, and that final showdown at Bond's childhood home in Scotland.
Every single one, so meticulously crafted and visually stunning.
Skyfall is truly a feast for the eyes. And a lot of that has to do with the legendary cinematographer Roger Deakins, who shot the film.
Oh, of course.
User Zeki4 specifically called out Deakins' use of color, light, and location to create this truly immersive experience.
That's true.
They mentioned the Shanghai sequence with the neon lights and towering skyscrapers, and that finale in Scotland with its bleak landscapes and fiery climax.
This is incredible.
And, you know, it's not just about spectacle.
No.
The action in Skyfall is thematically relevant.
Oh, absolutely.
They tie into Bond's character arc and those larger themes of the film.
Right.
User Luke made a great point about this in their review.
Yeah.
They said that the action wasn't just there for entertainment, it actually served to illuminate Bond's internal journey.
You know, that's a great point.
Like that opening chase scene in Istanbul.
Yes.
It's not just a thrilling set piece.
Right.
It also foreshadows Bond's supposed death and his subsequent return from the brink. It's like a visual metaphor for his resilience, his ability to overcome adversity and emerge stronger.
Yeah, and then you have that breathtaking sequence in Shanghai where Bond is silhouetted against that massive digital billboard.
It's so visually striking.
But it's also about his sense of isolation.
Yeah.
His struggle to find his place in a world that's increasingly defined by technology and anonymity.
It's like the film is speaking to us on multiple levels.
It is.
Through the dialogue, the action, the cinematography, even the setting.
It's a truly immersive experience.
But not everyone was completely swept away, right? Some reviewers had issues with the plot and the pacing. User Lead the Way Films argued that the plot relied too heavily on conveniences and that the film sometimes sacrificed character logic just for the sake of moving the story along.
Interesting.
It brings up an important point about audience expectations and genre conventions.
Okay.
Like most Bond films, Skyfall operates within that framework of the spy thriller. So there are certain tropes and plot devices that viewers might find predictable or even cliché.
Sure.
So how do we reconcile those seemingly conflicting viewpoints?
Yeah.
Can a film be both a crowd-pleasing blockbuster and a subject of valid criticism?
Well, I think that's the beauty of art, right?
Yeah.
It's subjective, it sparks different reactions, and it invites us to engage with it on multiple levels.
Right.
And Skyfall, despite its flaws, is undoubtedly a powerful film.
Yeah.
It's visually stunning.
It is.
It features compelling performances, and it grapples with some weighty themes.
It does.
Whether you love it or hate it, it's a film that's hard to ignore.
It is.
Yeah, and that's what makes it so interesting, right? A film can be entertaining and still be criticized.
Yeah.
That just means it got people thinking. And Skyfall definitely gave us a lot to think about.
It did. One of the things that kept coming up in these reviews was how Skyfall played with Bond's past, like his history, more than we've seen before.
Yeah, we get these glimpses of his childhood, his family, his legacy, all feeding into who he is now.
Yeah, like that whole sequence at his childhood home in Scotland, visually amazing, but also it's like he's literally confronting his past.
Right. And that really ties into this idea of legacy that runs through the film.
Yeah.
This idea of what does it mean to inherit a legacy,
Right.
whether it's a family estate or even being 007.
What burdens come with that?
Yeah.
And how do you deal with that in a world that's constantly changing? Because Skyfall also feels very current.
Absolutely.
With anxieties about cyber terrorism, data breaches, that kind of thing.
Yeah. The film is asking, is there still a place for a guy like James Bond in this new world?
And what does it mean to be a hero in a digital age?
Yeah, great questions.
Which I think makes Bond's relationship with M even more interesting.
Yeah.
Judi Dench's portrayal of M in this film is incredible.
Oh, she's amazing.
She's so much more than just a boss, you know?
Absolutely.
We see her vulnerabilities, doubts.
And especially that, deep, almost maternal protectiveness of Bond.
Yeah. It's like a mother-son relationship.
Yeah, definitely.
It adds so much weight to the story. Like, you actually care about these people.
Yeah, you're not just waiting for the next explosion.
Right. You're worried about what's going to happen to them.
And that's one of the things that sets Skyfall apart.
Yeah.
It delivers all those thrills, but it also has this real emotional core.
It's a balance that a lot of movies don't pull off.
Right.
Going through these reviews, it seemed like a lot of people were surprised by the movie.
Really?
They went in expecting a typical Bond film,
Yeah.
but they got something much deeper, much more complex.
The film really plays with audience expectations.
Does.
Like when Bond is seemingly killed off early on,
Yeah, that's bold.
for a moment, you really believe he might be gone.
You do?
It makes you think, what would a world without Bond even look like?
Right, and it just adds to the tension.
Yeah.
What about that ending?
The ending.
Yeah.
It's both satisfying and kind of bittersweet.
Yeah.
It provides closure, especially with M's fate.
Mm.
But it also sets up the next chapter for Bond.
Like it's saying goodbye to an era,
Yeah.
but also looking ahead to what's next.
That sense of transition is what makes Skyfall so powerful.
Yeah.
It acknowledges the past, but it's also embracing the future.
Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, the themes, the characters, but what about those little moments, the things people were talking about?
Oh, yeah, Skyfall is full of those.
Yeah.
Which one stood out to you?
Well, I keep thinking about that opening chase in Istanbul.
Oh, yeah.
Just pure action.
It's like a masterclass in how to set the tone.
It grabs you right away.
Right into the action.
It's amazing how they blend the real stunts with the CGI.
Yeah, it's seamless.
And Istanbul is so vibrant.
Yeah, exotic.
And then Bond falls to his death, or so we think.
Right.
Exhilarating, but also kind of unsettling.
Yeah, it's such a clever way to introduce this idea of mortality,
Yeah.
which is present throughout the whole film.
Like he's not invincible anymore.
Right, and then there's that scene where he's doing his physical evaluation.
Yeah.
He's showing signs of wear and tear.
Yeah, it's like those early scenes are hinting at what he's going to face.
Exactly. He's dealing with his own limitations, both physical and emotional.
It's not just in the action scenes either.
No.
That tension between Bond and Silva in the abandoned island lair, for example.
Oh, that scene is so intense.
Bardem is just chillin'.
Oh, totally.
The way he talks.
Yeah.
That mix of charm and menace.
Yeah, like you can't predict him at all.
And the way it's shot, the flickering candlelight,
Yeah.
long shadows.
It's like something out of a horror movie.
Yeah.
Or like psychological warfare.
It's like chess match.
And you can feel the history between them, the shared pain and betrayal.
Yeah.
It's a scene that's both smart and really gripping.
It sticks with you.
It does.
Talking about these scenes, I'm realizing just how much happens in this movie.
Yeah.
It's a lot, but it doesn't feel rushed.
Sam Mendes, the director and the writers, did an amazing job balancing everything.
They did.
The action, the characters, the emotion, the themes.
It all flows.
And it's constantly engaging.
And they do it while also paying tribute to Bond, but also keeping things fresh.
Right. Skyfall understands its past, but it's also making its own path.
With style.
And heart.
And heart.
Yeah, a rare thing.
As much as we've talked about Skyfall itself,
Yeah.
it's important to think about the James Bond franchise as a whole.
Oh, definitely.
Bond has been a part of pop culture for over 60 years.
It's true.
And his influence is everywhere.
You see it everywhere. In fashion, music, technology, even how we think about spies and global politics.
He's like the definition of cool.
Sophisticated, dangerous, resourceful.
Yeah.
The ultimate gentleman spy.
Yeah. And even though things have changed,
Yeah.
there's certain things that stay the same. The gadgets, exotic locations.
And the villains.
And, of course, the charming secret agent.
That formula, even with some changes, just works.
Skyfall is a great example of how the series can reinvent itself.
Yeah.
While staying true to itself.
And it's not just entertainment.
No.
Bond films often reflect what's happening in the world, like the Cold War.
Yeah.
Or anxieties after 9/11.
Yeah, they tap into things that other films don't.
Skyfall deals with cyber terrorism,
Yeah.
data breaches,
Loss of privacy.
all those things that we're thinking about today.
And what about the role of institutions like MI6?
Yeah. Are the old ways still relevant?
Good question.
And Skyfall makes you think about them.
While still being a Bond film.
Exactly.
It's self-aware.
Yeah.
Emotionally deep.
It doesn't shy away from the dark side of things.
But it's still fun.
It's still exciting.
And it still has those amazing movie moments.
That's why Skyfall connected with people.
It's smart and entertaining.
Thrilling and thought-provoking.
We've talked about a lot.
We have.
But what matters is how people felt about Skyfall.
That's what makes these user reviews so important.
Yeah.
They tell us what resonated with people,
Yeah.
the questions that stayed with them.
Everyone has their own experience.
Exactly.
And Skyfall, even though people loved it, evoked so many different emotions.
It's fascinating.
They're not about being right or wrong.
Really?
It's about the individual's connection with the film.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so great to explore user reviews.
It shows the complexity of how people react.
Skyfall was definitely a hit,
Oh, yeah.
both with critics and audiences.
Brought new life to the Bond franchise.
People loved it all over the world.
It's considered one of the best Bond films ever.
It's amazing that even in a series like James Bond, there's still room for new ideas.
Yeah.
New perspectives.
Skyfall took risks.
It did.
It challenged expectations.
It didn't shy away from difficult subjects.
But it still delivered on the Bond formula.
The thrills.
The action.
The characters.
It was both familiar and surprising.
That's hard to do.
I think that's the key.
Yeah.
It bridges the old and the new.
It honors the past.
But it also finds its own way.
Skyfall is a really good example of that.
Well said.
We've talked about a lot in this deep dive.
We have.
But Skyfall is not an easy film to define.
No.
It's complex.
And layered.
It means different things to different people.
And you see something new every time you watch it.
That's what makes it so interesting.
It stays with you.
Yeah.
Makes you think.
So, to our listener,
Yeah.
if you haven't seen Skyfall,
See it.
see it for yourself,
Yeah.
experience it,
Let it challenge you
and let it take you on a journey.
into the world of Bond.
If you've already seen it,
Watch it again.
yeah,
See what you discover this time.
because Skyfall has more to offer than you think.
And maybe this deep dive gave you some new ideas
Some new perspectives.
to take with you on your next Bond adventure.
Until next time,
Yeah.
keep exploring
Keep questioning.
and keep the conversation going. Yeah, it really makes you think, doesn't it? What did Skyfall mean to you?
It's interesting how different people took away such different things.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we had reviewers talking about being moved to tears.
Yeah.
Others who were just energized by the action.
Right, yeah.
And some who were left really pondering those big questions the film raises.
It really shows how much depth Skyfall has.
It does.
That it can be so many things to different people.
It works on so many levels.
Yeah.
Thrilling action, reflections on getting older and leaving a legacy, even a commentary on the world today.
For some people, it was like a way to reconnect with what they loved about Bond.
Yeah, to see those classic elements brought into a new time.
And for others, it was their first taste of this world.
Right.
Which makes you think about the audience for Skyfall.
Yeah.
You had those diehard fans who see everything.
Right.
And then those just coming in maybe because of Daniel Craig or all the hype.
And they're going to have different expectations, right?
The longtime fans, they might be looking for those familiar things.
Yeah, like nods to the older films.
Callbacks, you know.
But newcomers, they might be more open to seeing Bond shaken up a bit.
Exactly.
And you see that in the reviews.
You do.
Some loved it for that classic feel.
Right.
Others liked how it pushed the boundaries.
That's what's so cool about looking at these different views.
It is.
It shows how one film can mean so many things.
Yeah, depending on who's watching.
It's like we're all looking at the same painting,
Yeah.
but we see different things.
Different colors, different shapes, different feelings.
Exactly. There's no one right answer.
No.
It's all about that personal connection.
And that's what makes exploring these reviews so fun.
It is.
It's not about finding the right way to see it.
Right.
It's about seeing the variety of responses.
And with Skyfall, those responses were overwhelmingly positive.
Oh, yeah.
It was a huge success, both critically and financially.
It really gave the Bond series a boost.
I don't think anyone expected it to be that big.
People connected with it on a global scale.
And it's still seen as one of the best Bond films ever.
It just shows that even with a series as long as Bond, there's always room for something new.
Absolutely. New ideas, fresh perspectives.
Skyfall took chances.
It did.
It messed with what people expected.
Yeah.
And it went deep on some serious themes.
But it still had those Bond thrills.
The action, the locations, the characters.
Yeah, it was familiar but surprising at the same time.
Hard to pull off.
Yeah, I think that's why it worked.
It bridged that gap between the old and the new.
Yeah, it honored the past, but went its own way.
Yeah. Well said. We've talked about so much today.
We have.
From what the critics said to what the audience felt.
Yeah.
We dug into the themes, those incredible action scenes.
But Skyfall is a movie that you can't just put in a box.
No, it's too complex.
It means different things to different people.
And it rewards you for watching it again and again.
That's what keeps it so interesting.
It sticks with you.
Yeah.
Makes you think. So if you haven't seen Skyfall,
What are you waiting for?
yeah, go see it.
Experience it.
Let it take you on a ride.
Into that world of Bond.
And if you have seen it,
Maybe it's time to watch it again.
see what you notice this time.
Because Skyfall has layers.
More than meets the eye.
And maybe, just maybe, this deep dive gave you some new ways to think about it
Some new perspective.
for your next Bond adventure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep the conversation going.